Some other major costs involved with owning a home are maintenance costs. And there's no examples in this one for us to do. It's just basically all text. So I'm just going to sort of quickly summarize it. But you want to make sure that you read it, okay? And at least come up with a couple of, like, you don't have to remember all the bullets, okay? But you should be familiar with, like, if I said, you know, you could be asked a question like, name a preventative, or name a type of preventative maintenance you could do on your home, okay? So we'll talk about this, but and there are some calculations, but they're easy. Like all you're doing is adding costs. So, but it does take up a fair chunk, or it can take up a fair chunk in terms of cost. Okay. So, like you see here, it's recommended that the amount of 1 to 3% of a homeowner's annual income be set aside to cover maintenance costs, because they can certainly add up. Okay. And if you don't take care of your house by doing some preventative maintenance, then the cost will get even higher. Okay. So, breaking it down into the types of daily home maintenance. These are kind of tasks you perform on a regular basis, not necessarily daily. I mean, it could be monthly or every 3 months or something like that. Okay, but you can see the examples there. So, you know, if your faucets or if your faucet and your kitchen sink or your bathroom sink or your bathtub is dripping, you probably want to address that because you don't want it to become a big problem later on. Replacing light bulbs, repairing any damage to walls. So, like, let's say, you know, you get a slight crack in your wall because your house shifted a little bit, so maybe you want to just put some sealer over it. Replacing items such as windows. I had to do that this summer with my living room window and part of the reason why is I should have done better preventative maintenance. And I'll explain that when I get to preventative maintenance. Repairing electrical outlet and switches, tightening the stair railings, adjusting the locks that aren't functioning properly, making sure your appliances are clean, checking smoke alarms, make sure that you know, the batteries are okay. Same with the carbon monoxide detectors. So if you kind of perform these daily maintenance, or really it should say regular maintenance, not daily, because like, I mean, you don't switch your light bulbs daily. You don't clean your stove, kitchen counters daily. Okay. Although it depends, I guess, how much. I mean, if you cook a lot and you make a big mess, then maybe you do. Okay. So these things can reduce, you know, taking care of these things can reduce insurance costs. Remember, premium means how much you pay for insurance. Because if you take good care of your house, insurance people will look at that, insurance companies, and say, okay, this is not a high-risk client, this is a good client, we're going to give them our best offer. Okay. Preventative maintenance. Now this can kind of, I mean, these can kind of blend over into each other, regular maintenance and preventative maintenance. Okay. But these are things you can do so that you don't incur bigger costs down the road. And here's one thing, keeping your window wells and storm drains free of debris, and that would also include water. So what happened with my living room window is I have wood frames around my windows. And so you've got a wood, so my living room window, I don't know, it's, you know, it's like a bit bigger than this, and the ledge is like this, and it's a wood frame, but I should have kept it, I should have kept it clean more, especially free of water, because what happened is I went to paint all the trim around my house, and I couldn't do the I couldn't do the one around my living room window because it was just too rotted, because the water retained. So there was, like, the wood was just completely rotted. So what did that mean? What did that cost me? $5,000, because I had to buy a new living room window and get it installed. So preventative maintenance helps, believe me. Okay, and then you can see other things here that you want to check. Things around the outside of your house, things on the inside of your house. Okay, most of this stuff here is around the outside of your house. It'll just save some potential problems later on. You know, like things like clearing eavesdrops, something that you probably want to do on a regular basis, especially if you live in a very wooded neighborhood like I do. Okay? I mean, I get my eavesdrops cleaned at least once a year, if not more. And next, some more here. Okay, you want to check your also indoors, your your water lines and things like that, your basement walls. You don't want to see cracks in your basement walls because that could suggest a problem with your foundation, which is the bottom of your house, which would be really expensive to fix. Things like your hot water tank and your furnace, making sure you change filters in your furnace, you know, so that your furnace lasts longer, because you want to buy a new furnace, that can cost you like anywhere from $5,000 to $8,000 for a new furnace. And then there's always going to be something that happens. Okay, I mean, a few years ago, I woke up one morning, went downstairs to get some clothes to get dressed for work, and my hot water tank had ruptured, and there was water all over the place. It just happened. I couldn't have prevented it. It was just old. Right? So had to get it replaced, and that costs a few thousand to replace. Some of these things aren't cheap to replace. But you can see different things here. You know, floors and ceilings and walls and plumbing and electrical systems, doors and windows, foundations, and you know, major appliances within, like hot water tank and furnace and things like that. These are going to happen. That's sort of the perils of owning a home. What are some ways that you can sort of save some costs as well in terms of energy efficiency? Okay, because Canada is a big energy user. So that comes down basically to electricity, which fortunately we have a lot of in Manitoba because we have all the dams up north and the big flowing rivers that give us our electricity at a reasonable cost. Okay, but then of course we would also need our ability to heat. So what are some of the things that we can do to sort of save some money? Okay, well, you want to think about having up-to-date energy efficient appliances. So you can see there, and that includes refrigerators, washers and dryers, chest freezers, dishwashers, ovens. Okay. You know, you can get a lot of energy efficient ones now. If yours is too old, then maybe it's going to be using a lot more electricity. So maybe that's why you're paying a lot, because you have old appliances. And if you get newer appliances, they'll be more energy efficient. And just things, you know, like turning off any unnecessary items like lights and TVs and things like that when you're not in. For heating, there's different ways that homes can be heated. The most common one is natural gas. Okay, but doesn't necessarily mean it's the only one. I mean, electricity, propane, oil, geothermal heating. Okay. How can you reduce or be heating efficient or reduce your heating bills? Things there, you can see the bullets turn off the heat or air conditioning when you have the windows open in your house. So like, you know, when I was young, my dad would always yell at me if I opened the door for too long in the winter and you had the heat on. We're not in the outdoors. or you'd say yell at me the same thing in the summer. Anyway. Oh, but we didn't have air conditioning for a long time, and that was awful. We finally got air conditioning. It was one of the best. It was one of the best days of my life when we got air conditioning when I was a little kid. Anyway, you can see the things there that we can do to reduce heating costs. And I mean, there's going to be costs. There's a lot of costs with owning a home. You just want to. There are ways, however, that are listed here that you can minimize these costs. But in the end, it's still going to happen. There's still going to be an emergency. Okay. Okay. That's Juliana.